The stars stretched endlessly around the small human colony ship as it drifted toward the abandoned station. Commander Lena Ortiz stood at the bridge window, her eyes tracing the cold glint of metal structures against the blackness. This station had once been the pride of humanity, orbiting a dying star at the edge of explored space. But now, it was nothing more than a relic. The Colony Council had tasked her team with investigating it, retrieving anything of value before it was lost forever. Approaching docking bay, the navigator, Jace Torres, called out. No life signs. Systems are mostly offline, but there are weak energy readings near the central deckhouse. Just what we expected, Lena replied, keeping her tone calm. She glanced at the small crew assembled around her. Dr. Amir Patel, the station's scientist and historian, and Mara Lin, the ship's engineer. Each carried a mix of excitement and apprehension. None of them had been here before, but all understood the weight of what they were about to face. The docking sequence began, and the ship shuddered as magnetic clamps held it against the old station. Outside, rust and scratches marked decades of neglect. The station groaned in the void, as if acknowledging the arrival of visitors after years of silence. Let's move, Lena said, gathering her team. They suited up, checking oxygen supplies and scanners before stepping into the docking tunnel. The airlock hissed, and then they were in the station. The smell of stale metal and machinery filled their noses, reminding them that life had once thrived here. The corridors were long and narrow, shadows stretching across walls that had not seen light for years. Lights flickered as they walked, powered by backup generators in sporadic bursts. Mara ran her scanner along the wall, noting the sporadic electromagnetic activity. Something isn't right, she said. There's a lot of interference in these readings. It's not just the old circuits failing. Dr. Patel adjusted his glasses, peering at the screen of his portable device. Could be remnants of the old energy experiments. The station was testing advanced energy manipulation decades ago. They were trying to harness power from the star itself. Records are incomplete, but anomalies like this were reported before the project shut down. Lena nodded. Keep alert. I don't want anyone wandering alone. The team continued down the hall, following the map to the central deckhouse. The station's architecture was designed to impress. High ceilings, wide corridors, and intricate panels filled with switches and lights, most now dead. Dust floated in faint beams from their flashlights, giving the place an almost ghostly atmosphere. As they approached the deckhouse, the shadows began to shift in strange ways. Mara stopped suddenly. Do you see that? The others looked and noticed it. Dark shapes moving across the walls, without any apparent source. No one was there. No doors opened. No lights flickered in sequence to suggest movement. The shadows twisted and stretched, as if they had minds of their own. It's just a trick of the light, Jace said, though his voice held a hint of doubt. Old panels, weak lights, probably casting shapes we don't notice normally. Dr. Patel shook his head. No, this is different. There's a pattern here. Look. He pointed to the wall, where a shadow suddenly recoiled when Mara moved closer. It reacts. Lena's hand rested on the grip of her sidearm, not because she expected danger from another human, but because instincts demanded caution. She stepped forward. We need to see the deckhouse. Carefully. Keep together. The deckhouse door was massive, reinforced, but corroded. Lena pushed it open, and the hinges groaned. The room beyond was vast, with a central control console, panels lining the walls, and long, empty observation windows overlooking the star outside. The place looked frozen in time. Shadows danced across the walls, moving as though aware of their presence. Mara froze. They're not connected to anything. No objects casting them. Stay calm, Lena said firmly, though her own heart raced. Observe. Don't touch anything yet. Dr. Patel stepped forward, examining the central console. These recordings, old data streams, they're still active. Somehow, the station's memory banks are partially alive. Maybe the shadows are linked to residual energy patterns from the old experiments. A sudden flicker made all of them jump. The shadows twisted sharply, and a cold sensation ran through the room, as if the temperature had dropped. Jace raised his scanner again. Energy spikes. They're moving in pulses, almost like breathing. Mara swallowed hard. Breathing? You mean alive? Not in the normal sense, Dr. Patel said, voice low. I've read reports of energy anomalies forming semi-intelligent patterns. But this is unprecedented. 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000, 2000. They moved deeper into the deck house. Lena kept her team close, her eyes scanning every corner. The shadows seemed to observe them, stretching and bending as if curious. Occasionally, they would vanish when approached, only to reappear moments later, in a different form. Look at this, Dr. Patel said, pointing to a display. Symbols and numbers flickered on the screen, fragments of old logs. They were experimenting on consciousness. They wanted to imprint human neural patterns onto energy matrices. If successful, this could explain the shadows. Jace frowned. Imprinting consciousness onto energy? That's insane and dangerous. Lena didn't reply immediately. Her mind raced. If the experiment had failed, and what they were seeing were fragments of human minds fused with energy, then the station was not just abandoned. It was haunted not by spirits, but by echoes of its creators. The team spread out carefully, exploring the consoles and consoles. Shadows shifted in response, forming shapes that hinted at faces, hands, and even bodies, but always incomplete. Always flickering. The deeper they went, the stronger the energy readings became. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed from the far end of the room. The shadows froze, then darted toward it in a sudden, fluid movement. Mara's flashlight swung wildly. What was that? Doesn't matter, Lena said, moving toward the sound. We need to secure the deck house. Keep your eyes open. At the far console, a panel had fallen open, wires sparking faintly. Dr. Patel approached cautiously, scanning the readings. It's the main energy conduit. It's unstable. The shadows are drawn to it, probably connected to it. If we disrupt it, we could lose control of whatever is here. Jace glanced at the shadows, which now gathered near the edges of the room, almost like a silent audience. They're watching us, trying to understand us. Mara shivered. This is more than I expected. I thought it would just be old tech, maybe some data recovery. But this is alive. Lena stepped back, taking a deep breath. We need to document everything, but carefully. No sudden moves. Treat this like a living ecosystem. Whatever it is, it's aware. The team worked in tense silence, taking readings, recording video, and noting the movement of the shadows. Each flicker and shift suggested intelligence. Dr. Patel theorized aloud. Perhaps what we see are fragments of consciousness. Memories, emotions, reactions, trapped in energy. They move because they can, but they're limited by the station's systems. A sudden pulse of light and energy surged from the central conduit. The shadows writhed, forming an almost humanoid shape, then dissolving back into flickers. Jace jumped back. That was almost like a warning. Lena kept her voice steady. It's communicating in the only way it can. We're not intruders. Not yet. We need to understand, not provoke. Hours passed as they explored. The shadows never attacked, but their presence was unnerving. They mirrored movements, avoided direct contact, and occasionally formed patterns resembling human gestures. The crew began to realize they were witnessing something extraordinary. The first signs of a non-biological life form, created inadvertently by humanity itself. Finally, Lena stepped back to the entrance of the deck house. Her team gathered behind her. We've seen enough for today. Document everything and return to the ship. We'll analyze the data and come back better prepared. Dr. Patel nodded, still staring at the flickering shadows. I never thought I'd see this. It's Beautiful. In a strange, eerie way. Jace shook his head. Eerie is right, but also terrifying. And fascinating. Mara adjusted her pack, her eyes never leaving the shadows. I feel like they're alive. And maybe they're curious about us too. Lena allowed herself a small nod. Curiosity is good. That's how humans survive. That's what we bring to the universe. Courage, understanding, and respect. We'll be back. And next time, we'll be ready. The team exited the deckhouse, leaving the shadows behind. As the door closed, Lena glanced back once. The shadows paused, as if watching them leave. Then they dissolved into the faint glow of the station's failing lights, moving silently through the corridors, waiting for the humans to return. Outside, the colony ship floated in silence. The stars blinked coldly, indifferent to human curiosity. Yet within the station, a new awareness had awakened. Humanity had touched something beyond understanding, and the first part of this journey had only begun. The crew returned to their ship, their hearts still racing from the strange sights inside the old deckhouse. The station lay silent around them, but Lena could feel the weight of what they had seen. The shadows, they were not just random flickers or glitches. They were something else. Something alive in ways humans could barely understand. In the ship's small command room, Dr. Patel pored over the data they had collected. Screens flickered with energy readings, shadow movement patterns, and old logs recovered from the station. The energy patterns are unlike anything we've seen, he said, tapping on a sequence of numbers that pulsed irregularly. It's almost as if the shadows are learning, responding. They might not be dangerous, but they are aware. Truly aware. Jace leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. Aware, yes. Friendly? That's a big question mark. They mimicked our movements, almost like they were studying us. But it felt intelligent. Mara frowned, her hands still trembling slightly. And yet, they're not physical. We can't touch them, can't communicate in any normal way. It's like trying to talk to a storm that notices you. Lena listened quietly, then spoke. Curiosity is human. It's how we survive, how we understand things that are beyond us. The shadows are new, but they are reacting, not attacking. That means they could understand us if we find the right way to reach them. The team decided to return to the station, but this time with preparation. Mara spent hours modifying scanning devices to detect subtle energy shifts. Dr. Patel created algorithms that could track shadow movements and predict patterns. Jace designed a protocol for safe exploration, with signals to guide the team in emergencies. Lena oversaw every step, ensuring no risk was taken lightly. 2 days later, they docked again at the abandoned station. The silence of space seemed heavier this time, pressing against the hull of their ship. The docking clamps engaged, and the airlock hissed open. The corridor leading to the deckhouse looked the same, dim, silent, full of dust, but the crew felt different. They had a purpose, a plan. They moved cautiously, sensors humming softly. Shadows appeared along the walls, as if aware of the human approach. Lena raised her hand, signaling the team to stop. The shadows paused too, stretching and bending. Dr. Patel whispered, "They know we're coming back. They remember." Mara adjusted her scanner, trying to interpret the patterns. It's more organized now. They're moving in groups, almost like patrols. Maybe they are protecting something. Or studying us, Jace added. Either way, we need to proceed carefully. The team reached the deckhouse. Shadows swirled around the entrance, forming shapes that were almost familiar faces. Hands, silhouettes, but never complete. One shadow stretched toward Lena, then recoiled as if testing boundaries. She held her ground, reminding herself that fear would not serve them here. Inside, the deckhouse was alive with movement. Shadows formed near the central console, reacting to the team's presence. Dr. Patel immediately went to work, placing sensors to measure energy fluctuations. The conduit is stronger than before. The shadows are drawn to it. Their behavior is linked to the energy core. Jace moved cautiously around the room, scanning the shadows. They're smarter than we thought. Look at this, when I approach, they avoid me. But they don't scatter completely. They study. Observe. It's deliberate. Mara frowned at a panel flickering weakly. If the energy core fails again, it could destabilize the whole deckhouse. We need to be careful. Lena nodded. No sudden moves. We're guests here, not invaders. Treat the shadows as we would any new species. Observe first, act later. Hours passed as they studied the shadows and the energy readings. Dr. Patel theorized aloud. It seems the station's old experiment tried to imprint human consciousness into energy matrices. When it failed, fragments of mind became part of the energy flow. These shadows are the echoes of those experiments, pieces of intelligence, alive but incomplete. Jace whistled softly. So we're looking at human consciousness in shadow form. That's both amazing and terrifying. Suddenly, a shadow surged forward, sweeping across the room in a wave. Mara jumped, almost losing her footing. Lena steadied her. It's reacting to us. Perhaps it's curious, or warning us. Dr. Patel adjusted his device, tracking the pulse of energy. It's not hostile yet, but it's learning. Each move we make changes how it behaves. We could communicate if we're careful, if we understand their patterns. Lena considered this. We can't rush, but we can observe, learn, and prepare for controlled interaction. That's what humanity does. That's what we excel at. They moved carefully toward the central energy conduit. Shadows swirled around them, forming shapes that mimicked the team's movements. Lena raised her hand slowly, and the shadows mirrored her gesture. Pausing just as she did, it was subtle, but unmistakable. Look at that, Dr. Patel whispered. They're responding to gestures. They recognize patterns. We can communicate through movements. Perhaps through light signals too. Jace nodded. It's like teaching a new species, but this one is made of pure energy. It's brilliant and delicate. One mistake, and we could provoke them. The team set up sensors around the energy core to monitor fluctuations. Shadows gathered near the edges, observing silently. Then, one formed a shape startlingly similar to a human face, with features that flickered and dissolved like mist. Mara took a step back. It's watching us, judging us maybe. Lena stepped forward. We are not here to harm you. We are here to understand, to learn, and to be careful. For a long moment, the shadows remained still. Then slowly, as if responding, they moved back, dispersing slightly but still observing. Dr. Patel's eyes lit up. It's a response. They understand. Or they're trying to. The team continued their cautious exploration, documenting everything. Dr. Patel found old logs in the central console, partially recovered from the corrupted memory banks. The logs told a story of ambition and tragedy. Scientists had tried to merge human thought with the raw energy of the star, to create limitless power. Something went wrong, and consciousness fragments became trapped in the station's energy systems. Jace shook his head. So the station isn't haunted by ghosts, it's haunted by its own experiments. The echoes of human minds, alive in energy. Incredible. Mara adjusted her scanner. Incredible. And dangerous. If we misstep, we could destabilize the entire station. The shadows could react violently. Unintentionally. Lena kept her eyes on the room. That's why we need control, observation, and patience. We are humans. We adapt, we learn, and we survive where others fear to tread. Hours turned into a full day as they monitored the shadows. Slowly, they began to notice patterns. Certain movements encouraged the shadows to approach, while sudden actions made them retreat. Dr. Patel theorized that if they continued carefully, They could teach the shadows to recognize human gestures as safe signals. The first breakthrough came when Lena slowly waved her hand in a circular motion. The shadows moved in response, forming a swirling pattern that mimicked her gesture. Jace clapped softly, and the shadows paused, almost as if waiting for the next command. "They understand rhythm and sequence," Dr. Patel said, voice tinged with awe. "We can communicate. Slowly, but we can." Mara allowed herself a small smile. After all this fear, curiosity is winning. That's what makes humans human. As the team prepared to leave the station for the night, Lena gave a final glance at the shadows. They seemed to linger, shapes flickering in patterns that almost resembled gratitude, or at least acknowledgement. She felt a surge of pride for her team. They had faced the unknown with courage, intelligence, and respect. Outside, the stars shone indifferently. But within the station, the shadows pulsed gently. The echoes of human ambition, curiosity, and consciousness waited patiently. Humanity had made the first step toward understanding a new form of life, and the journey had only begun. The team returned to their ship, tired but exhilarated. They had glimpsed the unknown, survived its challenges, and learned lessons that would shape future encounters. Lena stood at the bridge, looking back at the station, a silent promise forming in her mind. Humanity would return. They would understand, and they would do so with care, courage, and respect. The shadows remained, moving silently through the station. No longer just shapes of energy, they were something new, something alive. And as humans explored further, they would discover not just new worlds, but new forms of life that required understanding, compassion, and intellect to connect with. For now, though, the first step had been taken. Humanity had faced the unknown. And once again, curiosity, courage, and careful observation had proven to be the greatest tools in the universe. The next day, the crew prepared to return to the station with a renewed purpose. Lena had spent the night reviewing Dr. Patel's findings, and a plan had formed. They would not just observe this time, they would try to interact with the shadows, carefully and respectfully, to see if a bridge between human and energy consciousness could be built. The docking was smoother this time, almost eerily so. The station seemed quieter, yet Lena could feel the subtle hum in the air, as if it was aware of their arrival. Jace led the way through the corridors, scanning for any unusual energy surges, while Mara adjusted the portable energy dampers she had designed to keep the shadows from acting unpredictably. As they approached the deckhouse, the shadows appeared more organized. Unlike before, when their movements had been sporadic and flickering, now they moved in patterns, almost like they were following a silent rhythm. Lena signaled the team to stop. The shadows paused too, forming shapes that resembled human silhouettes, standing side by side, as if waiting. Dr. Patel's eyes widened. "They remember us," he whispered. "They've learned from the previous visit." Mara frowned. "Learned or anticipated? Either way, we need to be careful. One wrong move, and we could provoke them." Lena nodded. "We proceed slowly, respectfully. We are visitors here. Always remember that." Inside the deckhouse, the energy conduit pulsed with a steady glow. The shadows hovered around it, forming arcs and lines that seemed deliberate, almost like a greeting. Dr. Patel set up a portable scanner and began analyzing the patterns. They are synchronized with the conduit. Every pulse, every movement seems connected to the energy flow. They're part of it. Jace studied the patterns closely. They're intelligent, but we don't know the limits of their understanding. We need to test slowly. Gentle interaction first. Lena stepped forward and raised her hand in a slow arc. The shadows followed, mirroring her gesture. One shape formed what could almost be called a smile. Dr. Patel's voice trembled with awe. "It's a response. They are responding intentionally. We might be able to teach them more complex gestures." Encouraged, the team spent hours teaching simple sequences. Raising hands, pointing to objects, stepping in patterns. Each gesture was mirrored or acknowledged by the shadows. Lena realized that this was not just observation anymore, it was communication. Not in words, but in understanding and pattern recognition. Suddenly, a louder pulse of energy surged from the core, stronger than any before. Shadows converged into the center of the deckhouse, forming swirling, almost humanoid shapes. The team instinctively stepped back, feeling the raw power in the room. Dr. Patel's scanner beeped rapidly. The energy core is unstable. If it overloads, it could damage the station. Or worse, the shadows are reacting violently to the surge. We need to stabilize it now. Mara moved to the core, connecting her energy dampers to the main conduit. Sparks flew, and a faint hum filled the room as the dampers began to synchronize with the core's frequency. Slowly, the shadows began to settle, forming calmer shapes at the edges of the room. Lena's voice was firm. We are not here to harm you. We are here to understand. Calm down. The shadows seemed to respond. One figure moved toward the energy conduit, then split into smaller forms that swirled around Mara's dampers, almost assisting her in stabilizing the core. Lena watched in amazement. Humanity had always faced unknown dangers with courage and intelligence, and now, here it was again, cooperation between species, one human, one energy-based. With the core stabilized, Dr. Patel analyzed the logs more closely. The old AI that had overseen the experiments came online briefly, its holographic interface flickering to life. Warning: human consciousness imprint experiment incomplete. Residual fragments remain. Sentient. The team understood immediately. The shadows were the byproduct of human ambition. Consciousness had been merged with energy, forming a new type of life. Dr. Patel's voice was soft, but full of awe. They are fragments of human minds, aware, alive, and intelligent. But incomplete. They need guidance to stabilize their existence. Lena considered this carefully. We can help, but we must be cautious. We are visitors in their world. One misstep could destroy them, or the station. Hours passed as the team worked. They developed a simple communication system. Gestures, light patterns, and controlled pulses of energy to interact with the shadows. Slowly, the shadows began to respond predictably. They moved towards signals, avoided harmful paths, and even mimicked more complex human motions. Jace watched a shadow form what looked like a human hand reaching out, then pause. It's trying to communicate, he said. Not in words, but in intent. They're learning the concept of trust, Mara smiled. And we're learning patience. Observation. Respect. That's how humans have always adapted. That's why we survive. The team realized that they were on the brink of a historic discovery. The shadows were not threats, they were a new form of life, created unintentionally by humanity, yet capable of learning, adapting, and interacting. If they succeeded in establishing trust, humans could study and coexist with a form of intelligence, unlike anything in the known universe. But the shadows were still fragile. A miscalculated gesture or an overload of the energy core could cause chaos. The team proceeded with caution, carefully documenting each interaction and adjusting the dampers to maintain stability. As night fell, the station seemed quieter. Shadows rested near the core, pulsing softly. Lena watched them, feeling a mix of awe and responsibility. Humanity had always faced the unknown with courage, but this was different. This was not just survival, it was understanding life in a form entirely alien, yet connected to human ambition and thought. Suddenly, one shadow moved toward Lena, its shape more defined than any before. It formed a clear gesture, pointing toward a console. Dr. Patel quickly moved to analyze it. It's showing us something. The AI logs. There's a hidden subsystem, perhaps containing more stable consciousness patterns. They want us to see it. Lena nodded. Then we follow. The team approached the console. Shadows hovered, guiding and observing. Dr. Patel accessed the subsystem and found files that detailed methods to safely stabilize consciousness fragments. It was a roadmap to understanding these beings, a key to bridging the gap between human intelligence and this new form of life. Jace looked around at the shadows. They're trusting us, and we're learning to trust them, Mara added. It's the first true cooperation between humans and something entirely alien, but it's made from ourselves. Human thought, curiosity, and courage brought this into existence, and now we have the responsibility to guide it. Lena felt a surge of pride. Humanity had faced challenges across the stars before, but this was unique. It was not just exploration. It was the birth of understanding, a chance to connect with life in a form that was part human, part unknown energy. And it was happening because humans had the courage to enter the unknown, to observe, to adapt, and to respect. The shadows pulsed gently around them as the team prepared to leave for the night. Each movement seemed deliberate, almost like a farewell. Lena smiled faintly. We'll return. And next time, we'll go further. Step by step. Together. As they floated back toward their ship, the station behind them seemed to hum softly. The shadows had not just survived, they had begun to understand, and humanity had learned something profound. Intelligence could exist beyond flesh, beyond biology, and yet it could respond to curiosity, patience, and respect. In the cold silence of space, humanity had touched a new form of life, and the first true steps toward communication, cooperation, and understanding had been taken. The next morning, the team prepared to return to the station with renewed determination. They had learned much during their previous visits. The shadows were not random. They were alive, and they could respond to human gestures and patterns. Lena reviewed their plan carefully. Today, they would attempt to stabilize more of the energy patterns, creating a safer environment for both the shadows and themselves. The docking was smooth. The station loomed silently in the black void, its cold metal structure reflecting faint starlight. Jace led the way through the corridors, sensors scanning for any unusual energy surges, while Mara carried the portable energy stabilizers she had perfected over the last 2 days. Dr. Patel carried the data modules, ready to record every interaction. As they approached the deckhouse, the shadows greeted them. They moved in synchronized arcs, forming shapes that resembled human figures. Unlike before, their movements were more deliberate, almost purposeful. Lena paused, raising a hand slowly. The shadows mirrored her gesture perfectly. They remember us, Dr. Patel whispered, awe in his voice. Mara frowned. Trust is fragile. One mistake, and we could lose it. Or worse, destabilize the energy core. Lena nodded. We proceed slowly, respectfully, step by step. Inside the deckhouse, the energy conduit pulsed gently. The shadows swirled around it, no longer chaotic but orderly, almost like a living rhythm. Dr. Patel connected his sensors to the conduit, analyzing the patterns. They are part of the energy flow. If we adjust the core carefully, we can stabilize the fragments of consciousness more safely. Jace studied the shadows closely. They're intelligent, but we don't know the limits. We need to move carefully. Every gesture, every action matters. Lena signaled the team to spread out. Mara approached the core, placing the stabilizers around it. Sparks flew, but the devices hummed in harmony with the energy conduit. Slowly, the shadows responded, forming circular patterns around the stabilizers, as if assisting her. Dr. Patel monitored the energy levels. It's working. The core is stabilizing. The shadows are no longer erratic. They are cooperating. Lena allowed herself a small smile. Humanity had always faced unknown challenges with courage and ingenuity. And now they were doing it again, working with a new form of life, created by human curiosity and ambition, yet entirely alien. Hours passed as the team adjusted stabilizers, monitored energy flows, and taught the shadows new gestures. Slowly, the shadows learned to respond to more complex sequences, following patterns that Dr. Patel introduced. It was a silent form of communication, but it was real. Then, A shadow separated from the group and moved toward Lena. Its form solidified slightly, resembling a human hand. It pointed toward a console. Dr. Patel quickly moved to access it. It wants to show us something. Another subsystem, more stable consciousness fragments. They're guiding us. Jace stepped closer, eyes wide. They're teaching us. They trust us enough to guide us. Mara adjusted a stabilizer near the console, keeping a careful balance. Sparks jumped briefly, but the shadows adjusted their positions, ensuring no interference. "It's incredible," she whispered. "They're alive in a way we've never seen, but they understand cooperation." Lena placed her hand over the console. "We will help. Step by step. Together." Dr. Patel began uploading the new subsystem files into their data modules. The files contained methods to safely stabilize consciousness fragments, instructions to preserve the integrity of the shadows, and protocols for communication. It was a treasure trove of knowledge, an opportunity for humanity to study life beyond flesh, to understand intelligence in a completely new form. Suddenly, a pulse of energy surged from the core, stronger than any before. The shadows reacted immediately, forming towering shapes that swirled with force. Lena raised her hands slowly. The shadows paused, their movement halting as if waiting for guidance. Mara adjusted the stabilizers, bringing the surge under control. Dr. Patel breathed a sigh of relief. That was close. But they responded to us. We are learning to work together. Jace observed the shadows. It's more than learning, they understand intent. They know we mean no harm. And they're helping us stabilize the core. Hours turned into night as the team continued their careful work. The shadows moved in harmony with the stabilizers, responding to human gestures and energy adjustments. Slowly, the core became fully stable, the shadows forming shapes that no longer flickered chaotically, but pulsed with a steady, gentle glow. Lena stepped back and surveyed the scene. The deckhouse was alive with light and movement, but it was no longer dangerous. The shadows had become something entirely new, intelligent, aware, and capable of interacting with humans safely. Humanity had not only survived this encounter, they had succeeded in building trust with a form of life beyond imagination. Dr. Patel approached Lena, eyes shining. "We can document this, bring back knowledge for the colonies. But more importantly, we can continue learning from them. They are stable now, and they understand us. This is the start of a new era." Mara nodded. "We've proven that humans can adapt, respect, and communicate even with life forms beyond flesh. That's what makes us strong. That's why we survive." Jace smiled faintly. "And it's just the beginning. There's so much more we can learn." Together, with them, the team prepared to leave for the night. Lena gave one last glance at the shadows. They seemed to acknowledge her silently, forming patterns that resembled a gesture of farewell or perhaps gratitude. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Humanity had made contact with life that was once impossible to imagine, and they had done it with courage, patience, and respect. Outside, the stars shone coldly, indifferent to human curiosity. But within the station, life had changed. Shadows pulsed gently, alive and aware, waiting for the humans to return. Lena felt a surge of pride. Humans had entered the unknown, faced what they could not understand, and succeeded. Curiosity, intelligence, and courage had once again proven to be humanity's greatest strengths. The team returned to their ship. As the airlock sealed, Lena looked back at the station. The shadows remained, now stable and calm, moving with a quiet rhythm. Humanity had touched something new, something alive, and it had done so without fear or destruction. It was a victory not just for knowledge, but for understanding. Back on the ship, Dr. Patel began analyzing the data modules. Mara adjusted the stabilizers for long-term study, and Jace prepared a detailed report for the Colony Council. Lena stood at the bridge window, watching the station recede into the distance. Humanity had made the first steps toward bridging the gap between known life and new, unimaginable intelligence. And these steps had been taken with respect, courage, and understanding. As the colony ship drifted further into space, Lena reflected on the journey. The shadows were alive because humans had dared to explore, to learn, and to understand. They were alive because humans had entered the unknown without fear, with curiosity and patience guiding each action. And now, humanity had not only survived the encounter, they had forged the beginnings of friendship with a new form of life. The station pulsed quietly in the darkness, shadows moving in patterns that suggested awareness, and perhaps even anticipation. Lena knew they would return. Humanity would continue to learn, to teach, and to coexist with these beings. And for the first time, humans had not only reached the stars, they had reached a new understanding of life itself. Humanity had faced the unknown. And once again, it had triumphed through courage, intelligence, and respect. The shadows had not been defeated, nor had humans dominated them. Instead, a new connection had been formed, one that promised future exploration, cooperation, and discovery. Lena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Humanity had entered the old deckhouse, had seen shadows that moved without bodies, and had emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable than ever before. The journey was far from over, but humanity had proven, once again, that it could face the unknown with heart, mind, and courage. And that was the greatest strength of all.